Welcome, everyone, to the Better Love Movement podcast, where you will finally learn how to intentionally do dating and relationships right. My name is Anita Stoudemire, and I am a licensed professional therapist and your personal love mentor. I've worked with thousands of singles and couples, giving them the skills needed to attract and keep the amazing love they desire. It is my heart's work to help people to get the skills needed to not only become the very best versions of themselves, but to help them grow and evolve emotionally and relationally. You can absolutely have the romantic relationship of your dreams. Come and let me show you how. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Better Love Movement podcast. We are in episode number 158, and I am super excited for today's episode because my guest I met through Instagram, where I meet all of my guests, and we are going to chat about a subject that I know a lot of you need to hear. It is entitled, How to Put an End to Blaming and Shaming in Your Relationship. So today I am talking to Gaby Sundra of For Better Love. Let me tell you a little bit about Gaby. While she has a master's degree in education, counseling, and guidance, and 25 years of coaching and teaching experience, it is Gaby Sundra's own messy to magical marriage that allows her relationship guidance to be so spot on. Her innovative methods at For Better Love are fiercely forward-focused, gently shifting any activity into concrete action steps. She's a whiz at supporting couples and not just digging themselves out of a relationship ditch, but cultivating a couple culture of aiming for awesome. Welcome, Gaby.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Anita.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So tell us a little bit about your platform, For Better Love.
For Better Love, as I mentioned, you mentioned in the bio there, it was my own messy to magical marriage, which really had me, get into doing this work, in that people told us, don't do it, don't get married. It was that bad. Wow. At the engagement party, we were pulled aside and said, this looks messy to me. I don't think you should do it. The day of the wedding, my father said to me, he's like, joking, half not joking, the door's open, there's a door there, we could go out the side. Wow. And so when we got married, because the intuition was so strong that this was something really special, and it was messy, but we did the work and it got better and it got better and it got better until people started saying, hey, what is it? How did you do that?
Right.
And so we were humble and said, gosh, it took a lot to really figure that out. But I had, as you mentioned, got my master's in education and counseling. So we really started to get specific and look at what did we do that worked? And that's now been 7 years I've been working with couples and been putting that message out there that, yes, it's often that we get into a relationship ditch that we need help out of. Right. But more importantly, it's the forward focus. And that's why it's for better love. Is it for better or for worse? Certainly, why not go for better? Let's create a marriage that is better. For years, we were known actually as relationship fun and games because I asked people, how are we different? But during COVID, we rebranded by some advice of a friend who she said, your brand's kind of cheesy. I was like, okay. I didn't think so, but I took her advice and I'm so happy because if you look at For Better Love, the colors, it's yellow and orange and pink of this sunrise of this hope and playfulness that we're so significant about growing and transformation and relationship conflicts. If we could all lighten up as we're kind of up leveling, I know we need to be serious sometimes. Yeah. And I don't mean just being frivolous and silly, but just lightening up about our complaints and about the blaming and about getting our needs met when it's not always easy. We got a tough world these days, especially.
Right. And relationships have really been put under a great amount of stress with the pandemic and everything that's going on. So,
and then for 2 years, some people that didn't spend a lot of time together, maybe their relationship was on the rocks, and then all of a sudden they're together all the time, or even with the kids all the time. It's been a lot of stress. And even if that wasn't you personally, there's just kind of the collective stress that's been building. And certainly we tend to take that out on the people we're closest to,
Right.
which is our beloved. And we get snippy and short over little things. And next thing you know, I just spoke to a client today. Well, she's not a client yet, but it's a light switch. People wake up one day and it's over. It's not
Right.
even the big things to get past. It's the death by 1,000 paper cuts that one day you wake up and you don't even want to be married anymore.
Right. Right. But yeah, we've been dealing with a lot. And like you said, just as a collective, but couples especially. I had a lot of couples that I worked with in my therapy practice that didn't make it. They did not make it out of the pandemic. So I understand. And this is work that is much needed. So this,
Yes. Yeah. Thanks for your service.
yeah. So our topic for today is all about letting go of the blame and the shame and the complaining cycle that a lot of couples find themselves in. I know as a marriage therapist, I get a lot of couples cycle. So share with me some of your thoughts about this and how to end this toxic cycle that couples find themselves in.
Yeah, blaming, shaming, and complaining, it comes pretty naturally and easy to us, right? And the more stressed and tired we are, the easier it is to default into those places. We don't have to take blaming 101.
Right.
There's no webinar or masterclass or playbook for that. But it does take practice to resist the default, make it part of your habit, to be aware of what the default is,
right,
how you can see that it's happening, and then what to do to pull yourself out of it. And even more importantly, just proactively to have a habit that builds a better culture between the two of you. Now, you can't change your beloved. Sorry, that's the good news and the bad news.
Yeah.
But you can change yourself and then inspire, because habits are locked in when there's a cycle. But if all it takes is one person to change the cue, and now you have something different that is happening.
Good.
It's not a magic wand. It's not like you're going to use one tool once and be like, they didn't respond. It's a slower process and it takes time. And also some things can happen like a light switch. So the antidote to blame, good news, bad news, is ownership. And what's really cool is that when you take ownership instead of blaming, you build a tremendous amount of trust with your beloved. So my husband and I, we've been together 16 years now, married for 14. So to those people who told us we were never going to make it.
Right.
It's just getting better and better, but not on its own. It's getting better and better by habit. But we came up with this tool, and then we decided we like to do 90-day games where we pick one tool or a particular goal, and then we focus on that for 90 days and then take a month off and then 90 days on for the next goal, so that we're always growing. It's part of our habit. Okay. So one of these 90-day cycles, we picked this tool called the OCC. Now, you and I, we seem pretty similar age. You probably remember that song by Naughty by Nature, and they'd say, "You down with OPP? Yeah, you know me." So this is meant to be a fun, lightening up memory, call and response that either my husband or myself will say, "You down with OCC?" And the other will say, "Yeah, you know me." Okay. Sometimes when we're in a conflict, we'll say, "Yeah, you know me." Right. But OCC stands for take ownership. Express compassion for their experience, and spark creativity. So it might be something like, I own that I only slept for 5 hours last night and I haven't eaten for 7. I'm in no shape to have this conversation. Right. I can have compassion that this is a really important issue to you and you need an answer right now, and that's causing a lot of stress for you. Right. Creatively, we could move forward by, I don't know, we could do X, Y, or Z. What do you think we should do? And so it's opening that conversation of now creativity. But it starts with when you want to blame. Now you want to say, what if it's their fault? Okay, well, you might be right. It might even be justified to blame them. They might totally deserve it. And it's human, not helpful, is one of my mantras. And you can be right and, pat yourself on the back and then go ahead and get yourself a divorce, over time. Or you can just practice that this is what we do, that it doesn't matter whose quote unquote fault is or to blame. but we take ownership. So that game, my husband and I would say within 5 minutes of any conflict, big conflict or little conflict, his fault or my fault, fault, like that's even really a thing. We kind of hold it that if we are in conflict, whoopsie daisy, we got there.
Yeah.
And so in that, then we'll say within 5 minutes, we each do an OCC.
Okay.
Now, I'll be honest, there's a couple times that he has said, I think we should do an OCC. And I'll say, fine, well, you do one. You brought it up.
You're right.
Don't tell me what to do. That's one of my, don't tell me what to do. You're not the boss of me is one of my like go-tos.
Yep.
But then he will. And then after he has, I melt. And then I say mine. And sometimes even if we're mad, we'll just text it to each other. But if you do those three things, even when you feel like blaming, take ownership, express compassion, and spark creativity, you will not only resolve the issues at hand, but you're going to be building that trust that's not just good for your long-term relationship, it's good for your sex life, it's good for your health, it's good for so many things, right?
Yep. Okay, awesome. Okay, so why do you think it is that couples tend to find themselves in this cycle of blaming, shaming, and complaining? How do they get there?
Yeah, they've got this hurdle called being human. And there's only so many hours in the day and so much energy and so much attention. Our brains are even designed to forget because we have so much coming at us. And now you add on cell phones and social media, there's just so much. And we're all a little overwhelmed, a little overstretched, a little underappreciated, right? That's a big thing in relationships is expressing our appreciation. And so it's just really natural and human. People will say to my husband and I sometimes, you're so intentional, as if they like get a lemon. And I look at them and I'll say, have you seen my willy-nilly?
Yeah.
Because my willy-nilly's kind of a cranky, It's like, I will default to wanting my own way and, being impatient. Like my husband, when he does something really, screws up, I tend to be really calm and handle it really well because he already feels bad.
Yeah.
It's when I'm standing outside the car and it's cold and he doesn't have the keys out to open the car. I'm livid. Right? So we're very human in these moments, these things that set us off. Maybe there's a trigger from your childhood and you chose your partner because they open up that wound. You haven't yet figured out how to heal that wound.
Right.
You have some of that dynamic going on. So if you're experiencing conflict, it's not you, it's not your beloved, it's not that you're incompatible. Now, of course, I'm speaking to healthy relationships here. If there's abuse or manipulation, that's not what I'm speaking about. There's no like laying down on doormats and drinking glass. That's not what I want people to do. But when we take that ownership and create that couple culture, the need to blame diminishes and it also stands out. Like I'll often say, imagine if like the Dalai Lama came in and threw down a book and started swearing. You'd be like, whoa, that's not like... You want that to be that way in your relationship, that swearing and calling each other names, but you just don't do that in your relationship. So if that happens, you might forgive, but you're not going to be like, wow, that's normal. Let's step over that.
Right.
But that kind of culture happens usually intentionally to improve it and improve it and improve it. At least that's what I'm doing and why I call it For Better Love, because it's not about loving perfectly. It's about loving better and better. And, oh, I slipped up there. Oh, he slipped up there. How can we do better? How can we be in it together?
Right. And I love that idea. That's very similar to my platform, is that I want to see better love. And my intention was to create a movement, that's something we need. We need better love out here in the world, the way we do relationships. So I really resonate with that for sure.
It's contagious, when you're at let's just say you're at dinner with a bunch of couples and it's always uncomfortable. That one that's like bickering at each other. It's like, I know what to order. Don't tell me, or whatever. Like, oh, okay. What's out there. And, you want to be more of the, look at that couple. What is it about them? Not the, oh, don't invite that couple. Remember what happened last time?
Right. And here's a question I have for you that's just off script a little.
Sure.
have you seen where women tend to do more complaining than men? Is that something you see relegated more to women?
Well, as a huge generalization, women are more communicative, right? And so it might be that men are complaining as well, but they just do it in a different way.
Okay.
Right? Like the way a man sometimes complains is the intentional incompetence. Yeah, I'll do this chore for you, but I'm going to do it pretty crappy so you don't ask me to do it next time. Right?
Right.
A
Yeah.
woman might be more likely to say, why are you doing it that way? I told you to do
Right.
it this way. Now,
Mhm.
again, those are also big generalizations, and you can see for yourself where you identify. On
Mhm.
my end, my husband jokes that I don't wear my heart on my sleeve, I wear my heart on my mouth.
Oh, wow.
And so I communicate a lot. I'll
Yeah.
say what my needs are, what my desires are, but I'm not attached.
Right.
Whereas
Okay.
he might think, oh, my needs aren't that important, or that's not a big deal. I'm going to just keep going. And then when he finally hasn't had his needs met forever,
Yeah.
he'll burst, right?
Yeah.
And so I've had to learn to bring my needs to him in a more streamlined way, not a stream of
Mhm.
consciousness way.
Right. Right. Yep.
But like we have a weekly meeting now on Fridays.
Good.
And so
Good.
he's a morning person, and I'm a night owl. So
Okay.
9, 10 o'clock, my brain's just going about the personal stuff. And I'll be like, hey, honey, what if my mom comes to visit for a month? Now he loves my mom, but he's an introvert. Asking him about
Yeah.
any house guest for even one night is a
Yeah.
lot, let alone a month. And I'm not a morning person. So when he's up at
Right.
6 and then I get up at 8:30 and he sees me and he's like, blah, 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 blah. I'm like,
Oh, God.
please
Yeah.
talk to me.
No.
So we've had to learn when to do those things. But yeah,
Right.
so whether you're a man or a woman,
Mhm.
complaining isn't helpful, and it actually is
Right.
going to
Right.
poison your relationship.
Right.
And you can't change the other person. So you might as well just look for yourself. Am I blaming? Am I
Yeah.
shaming? Am I complaining?
Mhm.
I've got a great game that we play called the Drama-Free Diet.
Mhm.
And it's kind of taking Harville Hendrix and Helen Hunt and what they say about negativity in a marriage. And they
Mhm.
describe
Yep.
negativity as blaming, shaming, complaining, and criticizing.
Right.
And
Right.
then John Gottman from the Love Lamp, he says, I'm
Mhm.
sure you probably know about the magic ratio, that
Yep.
to have
Magic
a
6 hours.
healthy,
Yeah.
right, to have a
Mhm.
healthy relationship, you want to have at least a 5-to-1 positive to negative. So my
Right.
husband and I decided anytime we blame, shame, complain, or criticize, let's catch ourselves and then say 5 positive things about the very one negative thing. So
Right.
one day my husband came into I was in the kitchen. I usually cook.
Mhm.
And I opened the trash can. I had a tough day and it's just full. And I was like, how do you expect me to cook dinner when the trash can's full like this? I just kind of barked at him totally
Right.
unnecessarily. And he just kind of looked at me and was like, wow, I'm just going to let the poop stink here. Right.
Yeah.
And so he said, I was like, okay, all right, I'm going to do a drama diet here. I'm going to do a magic ratio. I said, okay, honey, first of all, the trash is normally taken out. It's rarely do I open it and it's full. So thank you for that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Second of all, the fact that taking out the trash is your job and not mine,
Right.
dreamy. I don't like
Yep.
taking out the trash. So thank you.
Yep.
That's your department.
Yep.
Third, you really do divvy up the chores with me and what to do in the house. So I really appreciate
Mhm.
you doing that. Fourth, I appreciate you just being a partner. I feel your partnership in this marriage. So you
Right.
get the point, but I start from the specific and I go more general.
Yep.
Research
Yep.
has shown that by the time you get to number 3, you're neutral again from before you said the
Yeah.
negative thing. But if you say
Yep.
2 more, you're actually
Yeah.
more connected than you were in the beginning. So
Right.
that's the drama-free diet and a version of the magic ratio. If you're out there and just don't tell your beloved, you were just negative, you need to do this. You want
Right.
to model it. And then when you
Right.
catch yourself, okay, do over,
Yeah.
reverse.
Yep.
Let
Yep.
me clean that up.
Yeah. And I love the idea of modeling because that's something that I teach, that we're to each focus on ourselves. We're to each take ownership of how we add to the problem, how we're adding to the drama, and then we're going to now model better behavior. That's it.
Absolutely. And
Okay.
so
So
otherwise, if you're going to try and change somebody else, you're going to end up really frustrated.
for sure,
Yeah.
been there, done that.
Yeah.
Um, Thank you so much for sharing some of these fabulous tips and for being on this week's episode. This has been very insightful. I've learned a few things. Tell us about a product or service that you'd like for my listeners to check out.
Yeah, well, those that are listening, thanks so much for being here and for leaning into loving better in your own way. Just the fact that you're here now is a testament to the care and commitment that you're bringing to your relationship. So bravo. And Anita, thank you so much for having me in the Better Love Movement. I'm cheering you guys on as well.
Yep.
And for those who want to find out more, you can check out forbetter.love, not forbetterlove.com/movement, because I've created a special page just for you that has a cheat sheet of 8 tips for keeping the fights clean and 8 tips for keeping the sex dirty.
Okay.
And it also has a playbook that I normally sell for $33, but it's yours for free on how to create your own relationship vision so that you and your beloved have something positive. I call it aiming for awesome. So those 2 free gifts are for you there at forbetter.love/movement. And then of course, you can always reach out to me on Instagram or any of the other platforms that we're playing with these days. Right, Anita?
Okay. Well, I have lots of great ways for you to get in touch with Gaby. I'm going to put them all in the show notes. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, and YouTube. So
great.
The show notes, and that's where you're going to connect with Gaby. Okay.
Thanks so much for having me, Anita. And thanks everyone for listening.
Yes. Ladies, if you are not subscribed to the podcast, please do so now so you can be alerted every Monday morning when a new episode is loaded. Please rate and review this podcast, as your ratings help me to grow the podcast and offer more free content to you. If you're watching this episode on YouTube, you already know what to do. Please subscribe to this episode and like this episode, share this episode with anyone you think could benefit. So
spread the love.
Yeah. If you have a question that you want answered on the podcast, please send it to info@betterlovemovement.com. And if you'd like to learn more about me and the products and services that I offer, please head over to my website, www.betterlovemovement.com. All right. Thank you so much again, Gaby, for being on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. It's just a joy.
Yes. Thank you, ladies, for listening this week. And as always, stay open to love. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Better Love Movement podcast. If you are not subscribed to the podcast, please do so now so that you can be alerted every Monday when a new episode comes out. Please rate and review this podcast, as your ratings help me to grow the podcast and offer more free content to you. If you are watching this episode on YouTube, please do me a huge favor and subscribe to the channel. Give this video a thumbs up and share it if it brought you value. If you have a question that you would like to have answered on the show, please send it to me at info@betterlovemovement.com. You can also reach me on my website, www.betterlovemovement.com, to get more information on love mentoring and other services offered. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, stay open to love.